Welcome back, everybody. Another week of playoff football is gone and through and past us, and we're moving on to the championship games for each conference this week. And Dad, let me tell you, it has been wild. How have you been?
Good.
Good. That's
Man,
good.
the last few weeks have been super fantastic football wise.
Yep. If you're
Um,
if you're new here, my name's Michael. This is my dad, Mike, and
oh
we're
hi.
we're just two guys who love football, and we're gonna discuss some football today. We've got two games to talk about, and then we've got some coaching things to talk about real quick. But it's probably gonna be a quicker one, I think. I think we're gonna go through this
Yeah, there's
fast.
not as much to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, where should we start, sir? Where do you want to start? Which game?
Uh, Paul, I wanted to recap a little bit last week since there was only 4 games to go over, and really actually only 3 games if you want to talk about competitive games. The
Yeah.
49ers got absolutely dog walked against Seattle.
Mm,
Seattle took the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and that they could have actually ended the game right there because they were
San
up 7 to
Fran,
0, and San Fran only scored 6 points the
six
whole game.
points
So
total. Yeah.
opening kickoff won that game, which
Yeah.
is, I believe, although we did have quite a few weeks where we did not have a pod, going back quite a ways, I was pretty firm that the NFC was probably going to win the Super Bowl, and I've been pretty big on Seahawks for a while, as far
Yeah.
as just kind of the way that division had been looking, and so I will stick with that pick right now. I think the Seahawks are just really good. But
I'm
enough about that game. Was just
convinced.
that
Yeah.
game was just a beat down. Seahawks are very good on the defensive
They're
side,
so talented.
and yeah, and if quarterback Sam Darnold can kind of be even pedestrian, which he's been the last few weeks, and just not really make any mistakes. I mean, he only had 124 yards
He
passing
he
last
needed
week.
yeah, he needed to just not throw the game for them, and that's what he did, right?
Yeah, so that game was kind of a dud. We had the Bears who lost
The
um,
Los Angeles Rams
to the
in
Rams in what
OT.
was a very exciting game. It was definitely, I think, the better outcome because I don't think that the Bears would stand much of a chance against the Seahawks. Really, I don't.
Mm,
And the reason I give the Rams a chance is because those are division rivals. They played each other twice this year.
yeah.
And when a team plays another team for the third time, it's sort of proven that you kind of got to throw everything out the window to a certain degree. I still think
Yeah.
Seattle's a better team. They're going to win. But I give the Rams a shot because it is the third meeting. They've split the meetings this year. They
Yeah,
both won
and
one game.
if we wanna really talk about it, Seattle won their game against the Rams in a very questionable way, right? With that really weird backwards pass that ended up in the end zone that turned into a touchdown, right?
I think so, but
Yeah.
I think that, but yeah, and that just speaks to, I believe,
How
what
competitive it
is when
is
you
with
get
those 2
divisional
teams.
rivals, yeah,
Yeah.
divisional rivals against those two teams. So, um, the Bears game was exciting. There was a lot of stuff that in overtime and some interesting things, and I think that the Bears are what I think a lot of people thought, another year or two away from being a real contender. And Caleb
Ye
Williams, their quarterback, is still proving that he's got to fix a few things.
yeah,
They fixed a lot of stuff this year, but I think there's still some things to clean up.
that was what I took from that game. What I took from that game, and with about 5 minutes left in the game, uh, I was already telling, the people I was watching the game with, Ben Johnson wins a Super Bowl in his first year as a head coach if he has a quarterback that isn't Caleb Williams. And I think that's the truth. And I'm not saying Caleb Williams played terrible. He didn't have a bad year, but 3 interceptions in this game is a very big factor for it. And Caleb Williams, although he can be a superstar and when he's running 30 yards backwards and then hucking the ball down the field can make a play happen, uh, regular play, it seems like he falls apart. So hopefully he
Yeah.
figures it
So
out. But I think if I'm a Bears fan, I'm hoping that maybe Caleb Williams isn't my quarterback in the future. That's my thoughts
really,
on it.
I don't know that really.
I
I
do.
think that
I think if
another year
you
with
think
head coach
development
Ben
will get be
Johnson and
good.
him, he's going to get better. He made. I mean, you know
Oh,
this more than anybody. I'm not a Caleb Williams supporter by any stretch of the imagination, but he's made a
huge
huge
improvement.
step forward this year, in large part, I think, because of Ben Johnson, the head
Of
coach
course.
for the Bears. And I think that if they can show another improvement like that in year two and have Ben Johnson have
Yeah.
another year of being a head coach, because I do think some things in that game were a little bit on Ben Johnson, tightened up a little bit.
Oh
But
yeah, he had some very
yeah,
bad
so but
decision
we
making.
don't. They're done and out, so we don't need to discuss them too
Yeah,
much
that's
more until
true.
we come around to next year. And then we had the Patriots beat the Texans, and man, the
Well,
Texans did not look all
yeah,
that good.
I don't think the Patriots beat the Texans. I think the Texans beat themselves.
I
And
think
more specifically, I
maybe
think
even
Stroud beat himself
yeah, I
and
think
beat his
Stroud.
team.
Yeah,
It was so bad.
yeah.
That was terrible game. The fact that the Texans stayed competitive in that game is a testament to how good that fucking defense is. And it is unfortunate that we don't get to see them play any further because, man, that was a rough watch. I will say.
Yeah, CJ Stroud, quarterback for the Texans,
Four
has
interceptions and a fumble.
yeah, and I think he had 8 turnovers total in the 2 playoff games that he
He
played
did.
in.
Yep.
And he did not look good, like stats wise, when you look at the stat sheet. And then also, if you just watch the game, he did not look good.
He doesn't
It
look
looked
like a
like the moment was too big for him.
Yeah, he
And
doesn't look confident at all. He looks
no,
like he just and confidence is huge, man. Your mentality is the most important thing. So,
yeah.
uh
So okay, so that's that one. And then probably the game that if you watch the game and you went to bed right after, like I did, and then you woke up the next morning and you hadn't watched anything else about it. And I saw on social media that the quarterback for the Denver Broncos was out the remainder of the season with a broken ankle.
Bo Nix broke his
I
ankle.
literally thought that it was a fake. It was a deep fake. It was a meme. It was something. And I was about to send that to a friend of mine at work who's a diehard Broncos fan. Sorry, Jake. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to do that because I had been texting with him and talking to him that night during the game, and he was so ecstatic that they had won. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to send him that. And then I actually started checking real sources and realized that, in
It's
fact,
real.
that the Denver Broncos, who I've given almost very little to no credit all year, who I believe are frauds and have believed had pulled off the victory to go to the championship game in spite of everything that I thought. They beat the Bills, and who I had picked last week on the pod. I picked the Bills to win. They were kind of my
I did
favorite that I
too.
was hoping.
I did too.
And they once again won the same way, in the same fashion that they had won all year long, by scraping it out.
Mm-hmm.
And now we find out almost right after the game. I mean, had I been
Immediately
watching
after
the
the
media
game.
after,
Immediately
yeah,
after.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I didn't watch anything past the sideline reporting, and Bo Nix, the quarterback we're referencing,
was
the winning
fine.
quarterback for the Broncos, seemed fine.
So I
And
have some
he
thoughts on that because they're claiming that he broke his foot or his ankle a couple plays before the end of the game. And
second to last play.
second to last play, which is he like
Uh-huh.
scrambled out and got tackled and his
Uh-huh.
foot got yanked, which it does look like that could have happened. But a lot of people
Uh-huh.
speculated that he broke it in the tunnel, that he maybe tweaked it on the field and then on the way through the tunnel he slipped or broke it in the tunnel.
No, I haven't heard that, but no, but I've watched the play quite a few
It
times.
looks like he broke it on that play.
The play itself, you can't see where it would have happened. However, he stands up and he pushes off of his left leg. It's his right ankle he breaks. He stands up and pops up off
Oh,
of his left leg. He turns around. He takes about 3 steps
yeah,
before you see him take a ginger step,
yeah.
and there's something clearly not
Are
right.
you you're talking about the
Then they
knee he
play.
took, right?
What knee he took? I'm talking about the last play, the second to last play, where they think that he broke his ankle.
Yeah. He got tackled, right?
Yeah, he scrambled.
Yeah, he
It was
scrambled
a
and they got
quarterback
okay,
run.
I'm
He
just making
scrambled out to the
sure.
left.
Yeah.
Yeah, he jumps up, and when he jumps up, when he pops up, you can tell he pops up with his all off his left leg.
Off his left leg,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you could
and he
definitely see
takes a
it.
step or two, and the first step or two he's fine, and then he kind of does one of those, I'm not sure if this is okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't really show much more than that. The next play he throws deep, an incomplete deep pass. That's the last play. And then he starts to jog off, and again you can see he's sort of ginger a little bit. It's not
Yeah.
noticeable again, nobody noticed it in real time. So
No,
you don't notice
he
it.
finished the game. He played
However,
out the
however,
game.
here's the last thing that you could tell it had happened during the game. When he's walking off the field, and I've watched it several times, as the game's over, and when he's walking off the field, he looks up into the stands and puts his hands in the air, kind of like this, and you can tell the look on his face. He knows
It's over.
he's saying goodbye for the last time this season.
Yeah.
What has just happened is
Has
done.
ended his
He had
season.
already,
Yeah.
that it was over. He was walking off and into the locker room. He'd already done the post game on field interviews, and he looks up into the stands, and you can tell that he's the only one as of right then. He's the only one that knows I'm done.
Yeah.
This was the last time. It's kind of like a football player or a sports, anybody who plays sports, when they know they're walking off for the last time of the season and it didn't end the way you wanted it to. It kind of looks like that. And so I don't think so. I think that's the way it happened. But it was a spectacular game. It was another overtime game, right? Yeah, that was overtime game. Yeah,
I went to
it was
OT
another
as
overtime
well.
game. I was in real time texting and talking to, like I said, a friend of mine at work, Jake, and I just, some of the things that Josh Allen did were just mind-boggling. I mean, the fumble at the end of the half. I thought he actually tried to pitch that back. It looked so terrible, and just some of the things throughout the game were just ludicrous, to be quite honest. And, I don't know that they deserve to win the game. And here comes the Broncos, who don't make those kinds of mistakes, and
They didn't.
they won another one.
Right? Yeah. The Bills didn't deserve to win the game, and I said it last week. I said, win or lose the Super Bowl this year, Josh Allen is going to get heavily ridiculed, right? Either it's going to be, people are going to say he's not good enough to win a Super Bowl, or he's going to win a Super Bowl and people are going to say, well, he didn't have any real competition to play. And, this game is, I would argue, fairly, pretty heavy on Josh. But, you want to look into it deeper. I think their front office has failed Josh Allen tremendously. And they have done a very poor job in the last couple of years drafting around him to give him the best position possible. And we are continuing to see them make mistakes, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but McDermott gets fired. They don't inform Josh Allen of that. Josh Allen's stunned by that.
Ahead of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a story of, I think, the Bills organization's really failing their players, and it's terrible. And we'll get to it further on, but
let's say that. Let's say that.
That's a rough game, but let's move on to this week.
So that game was that way.
Let's move on to
let's go on to this week. So this comes down to now the Final Four, and we've got the Patriots going to Denver.
Patriots are going to
play
Denver.
The Denver Broncos, who are going to be playing with their backup quarterback,
Stidham.
Stidham, who has not played in a actual regular season game for 2 years. The last time he played was for the Raiders. So, and he's been in Denver there the last couple of years.
Yeah.
He is, by all means and all accounts, a very good backup quarterback. He's talked very highly about.
Great backup
everywhere
QB.
he's been. He's played. He was drafted to the Patriots. To play under McDaniels there as offensive coordinator. That's why he ended up at the Raiders. When McDaniels was the head coach for the Raiders.
Yep.
And then as soon as he could, when Sean Payton got to Denver, he basically stole him to the Broncos to be a backup because he thought so highly of him.
Yeah.
Having said that, he's been a backup his whole career, so he still is a backup. He's He's going to have 1 week of practice to come in and attempt to do something that's never been done before, which is come in without any games played all season and win a championship game and then go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I have some major concerns about that.
I
actually was prepared to say that if the Broncos had Bo Nix, that I would be fairly comfortable in saying that I think the Broncos would have picked the Broncos.
I would have picked the Broncos.
I think that Drake May is the quarterback for the Patriots, is a better quarterback than Bo Nix, but has not played very well all of the playoffs and maybe like the last 3 to 4 weeks. And at this point, I was pretty comfortable in saying that I would pick the Broncos to go to the Super Bowl. And then the unfortunate reality that we have Stidham now starting. And so I don't know. I don't know.
I think this, the last time a backup QB came in the playoffs and played it out successfully was Nick Foles. Big Nick, Nick.
But it's not the same situation.
But it's not. Yeah, exactly. Because Nick
he had
Foles came
several
in,
weeks. He had most of the season, or a good portion of the season.
Nick Foles came in and had a little bit longer to prep, and Stidham has no time to prep. Now, do I think Stidham is going to win them this game? No. Do I think Stidham's going to lose them this game? Also no. I think the Broncos defense is going to be the key to this game, and Sean Payton's a very, very talented head coach, and he, I think, has been working with a quarterback that's below average to a lot of people, in Bo Nix even, right? And so if Sean Payton can be a quarterback whisperer and get Stidham to get Stidham to play at a acceptable level, the Broncos still have a very good chance of winning this game. It will be a battle of defenses this week on that side of the ball. So that's how I feel about it. I actually don't think Stidham's going to be as big of an issue as people think it is, because I think Sean Payton's good enough to do it. But that's me being crazy. So that's how I feel about it. I think it's a lot, right? But I think if there's one head coach left who can handle it, it's going to be Sean Payton, right? So,
that's where I agree, and I've said that outside of our conversation several times.
Exactly.
That's putting a lot on Sean Payton.
It is.
And again, just for reference, when Nick Foles came in for the Eagles in 2018 and won the Super Bowl, he played the last 5 games going into the playoffs.
Of the regular season, yep.
And so he had, quite a bit of time.
He did.
To sort of acclimate to be the starter.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just thinking about it from a perspective of setting aside playing quarterback, just the reality of the weight of now what's being dumped onto
it's all on his shoulders, yeah.
Is it, so there's a lot there. There's a lot of moving parts. I think right now, as we talk right now, Vegas has the Patriots favored by 5.5. So that's what Vegas thinks right now because of Stidham. I don't know. That's a pretty good number. And
yeah, I mean,
I don't know what it would have been with Bo Nix, but
Patriots
to
probably would have been favored a little bit, but
it favored the Patriots going to Denver to play a road playoff game.
Yeah,
for the championship game and have them favored by 5.5. That speaks volumes to sort of what Vegas thinks about what Stidham's going to do. And so,
so here's my thoughts on it. I don't think it speaks volumes to how Vegas thinks Stidham's going to do, but rather how they think Vrabel is going to coach his defense around it, right? Because Vrabel's a very talented defensive mind. And, I feel like as soon as you hear that Bo Nix is out, the entire game plan turns to, we need to pressure Stidham. Force the Broncos to throw the ball, pressure Stidham, make Stidham make the plays, right? And that's what it's going to be. That's what we're going to be watching, right? And so it's going to be a very interesting watch to see Sean Payton, who is a very talented offensive mind, go up against Vrabel, who's a very talented defensive mind, and see how they both adjust to Stidham. That's why this is I'm very excited for this. I was not thinking that the playoffs this year would be very exciting. And they have, each week has proven me wrong. Well, I was depressed and angry because the Lions are not in it, right? But I think each week has been very exciting and has proven me wrong. And I think this game is going to prove me wrong as well. So, we'll see.
When we on the other side, we have the
juggernauts.
Third game between
the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yeah, against the NFC division rivals.
NFC West, dude.
Seahawks and the Rams. And so the Rams have to go to Seattle.
The Rams have to go to Seattle and face a team who is so talented. I think, again, all year we were discussing it, right? That Seattle is one of the best, if not the best team in the NFL, right? It was the whole year it's been Rams, Seattle, San Francisco. And I still believe that, right? I mean, the only big issue I think on Seattle's side is their starting running back, or one of their starting running backs, Charbonnet. Tore his ACL in the game last week. But if you look at the stats, dude, Kenneth Walker had 140 rushing yards.
3 touchdowns.
And 3 touchdowns. He's finally getting his share of the load, which sucks because we had him on our fantasy team this year and he didn't get it all before then. But I'm excited to watch this game for the opposite reason. Now, Patriots-Broncos, I was discussing, is going to be a very defensive game. I think this game's going to be a fucking blowout, dude. Both teams are going to throw points up left, right, and center. two of
You
the
mean
best
high scoring, not a blowout? You think it's going to
Yeah,
be
high scoring.
even
Apologies.
matched?
A high scoring game. I do think it's evenly matched because both of their matchups were evenly matched. I mean, their second meeting, the Seahawks won by 2 points in overtime, right? And then in their first meeting, which was a bit earlier in the season, if I am not mistaken, it was also another big game. 19-21, right? Close game. And then their second matchup was much higher scoring, 37-38. But I think both teams, their offenses are what shines the most. I think both defenses are very good too, but when you have as much time to game plan against each other, points are going to be scored, right?
Yeah, well, Seahawks are favored by 2.5 right now
Yeah,
as we sit,
that's about right,
which
I
is
would say.
about right. Yep. Yeah.
Sam Darnold's
So,
injury clearly, I mean, it affected him, but it didn't affect him for them to lose the game.
yeah, I don't know how much it affected him. But they didn't really rely on him. It's sort of
That's what I'm
funny
saying.
because
I think they did a good
he's
job of
not sort
hiding
of the
it.
he's not sort of the traditional quarterback that we kind of want to hide and just not have us not lose the game with him. We've seen that a few times in the past years.
Yeah.
Which we've referenced before, most notably the Baltimore Ravens when they won back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But he's not that quarterback, and yet if you sort of look at his stats and how much they've used him and the way they've used him, it almost feels like that. I think it's more a testament of just they're not really hiding. They just haven't needed him because of how well the defense have played.
Yeah.
And so I think that it'll come down to really him. I think it actually is going to come down to him. It has not this playoffs at all.
That's what,
It
yeah.
has very little in this. It has very little in the season been on him, whether it was win or lose. I think that Seahawks have just played very, very good defense, and they played very good team defense. And like for instance, last week Walker had 3 touchdowns and 140 plus yards, and it just really hasn't really been on his shoulders. But I think it is going to be a higher scoring game, and I think that it is going to come down a little bit more to him. McVay and his staff for the Rams, the third time seeing them, I do believe that they're going to be part of taking him apart a little bit if that's what happens. I think that he's going to have to play a bigger role in this game.
Yeah, so
and we'll see kind of where that goes.
Let's get into that a little bit more because I think this is a really interesting discussion. First time they met earlier this year, 19-21, Rams win. Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions that game, 0 touchdowns. Right?
Yeah, they almost won with that.
They almost won with 4 interceptions, right? That's how good they are, right? And then in their second matchup, Sam Darnold threw 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and they barely won, right? It's really interesting. It's just really interesting because I don't think Sam Darnold's a bad quarterback. I don't think you think Sam Darnold's a bad quarterback. But I do agree with you in the sense of if Seattle needs to rely on Sam Darnold, I don't know if they win this game. I think if it's all put on Sam Darnold, which it hasn't been this year, but if it does end up being the whole game is on Sam Darnold's shoulders, I don't think they win.
Okay.
And it's been shown in the past. We've seen Sam Darnold struggle later on in the year when things do kind of get put on his shoulders. So we'll see. But he has cracked under pressure in the past, and I'm hoping he doesn't because I think we are both rooting for Seattle to probably go on and win this. So we'll see how it goes, but it's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun one.
Oh, it's going to be great. I disagree with your sentiment about the playoffs. I've loved the playoffs this year, going back to the opening wildcard weekend.
I'm saying I was proven wrong, and that the playoffs have been really fucking good this year.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the playoffs have been amazing this year.
I've loved it. I mean, set aside one of our teams being in it, this has been tremendous.
Yeah, it has been awesome.
I've really loved it.
I mean,
yeah. So
every game, with the exception of 1 or 2, have been actually. Yeah, really, every game has been awesome to watch. I mean, I can't complain.
All right. Okay, well, the other thing that we have going on, the topic here as we end out the year that we've had the last couple of weeks here is the coaching carousel, the coaching.
Yeah, let's discuss coaches.
When we talked last week, we had a abnormally high number of head coaching vacancies that had opened up this year. We generally have,
Yep.
6 or 7, 7 or 8 maybe,
And
between 6 and 8.
we were on 9 last week.
We had 9 going into last week, and then
Coming into this
and
week.
the aforementioned last weekend we had the Bills losing in overtime to the Broncos. And what I think most people had speculated, including all of the insiders and everybody, was that the Bills head coach, after winning in the opening round of the playoffs, had saved his job, because I think it was pretty clear that if he didn't win the first game, that he would have been fired instantly. And lo
Yeah.
and behold, we wake up the next morning and the Bills fired their head coach
He's gone.
after losing in that round. And
Yeah.
and so we got a little cart before the horse
I did. I got
a
excited.
couple minutes ago. So that leaves us with 10 head coaching spots, which is now several now over the average,
Yeah.
and opens up another really good job, which I'll discuss a little further in a little bit later why that concerns me. However, that makes 10 jobs, and Buffalo not only, and this is where you were going, and I'll preface it real quick, and you can take it from here.
Yeah.
Is they not only did they fire their head coach, but they then promoted their general manager from GM to head of football operations, and which is a wild turn, considering what you had previously said, which was that there is a clear issue with who's playing on the football team, which is the general manager's job to get the players. And there's a clear talent deficit in some areas that would have been really helpful for the Bills this year, so that the entirety of the games were not on the quarterback, Josh Allen's shoulders. And so it's just sort of interesting for them to fire the head coach and then promote the guy who's in charge of bringing the talent to the head coach. So what did you want to go with that?
So to get into it, right? McDermott's fired, and then shit really hits the fan here, right? Because as soon as McDermott gets fired, and I was expecting him to get fired, I just thought they were going to clear house, which they didn't. As soon as McDermott gets fired, you hear reports that Josh Allen wasn't notified that they were firing McDermott.
They did not ask Josh Allen,
which is insane. Because Josh Allen is the only reason your team's competitive year in, year out. You need him, so they fire him without saying anything. There's a lot of issues. I think the players as a whole are very unhappy with that decision. McDermott was very highly respected in that locker room, and not notifying your players that he's fired is crazy, right? And then we look at their drafts, right? Their GM's decision-making over the last couple of years. And with the exception of Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid, I think they have drafted extremely poorly over the last couple of years. And it shows, right? It shows. Josh Allen has had nobody to throw to since Stephon Diggs left. And it's apparent that every wide receiver that they've brought in has been very, very bad. Statistically, they have not been good. Keon Coleman was released this morning, right? He's one of the worst drafting decisions they've made. And they just haven't had anything to build around Josh Allen, and they've expected him to be Superman. And although, we all believe that Josh Allen is Superman, we all think he's the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. The dude can't do it 20 plus games a year, right? So that's kind of the issue. But yeah, I think it's a mess. I think going all in on your GM is a complete and total slap to the face of your players who respected McDermott. I think it's a slap to the face to McDermott, who wanted some players that they didn't end up drafting, right? That's the other reports you're hearing, is McDermott wanted to get certain players out of the draft, and they told him no, and then those players ended up being amazing, right? It's kind of a mess. McDermott's going to find a job, probably. I think he's a very good head coach. But yeah, I mean, I don't like how ownership said that firing McDermott was the right decision because they've clearly hit a playoff wall, without deciding that your GM needs to be fired too, because McDermott's been working with fucking scraps at players with players that they've been bringing in and out. And yeah.
So I didn't see Keon Coleman getting released.
You didn't?
No. I was looking for it right now because I know that it's sort of an interesting situation, because the owner for the Bills comes out and says that it was actually the coaching staff's decision to draft Keon Coleman, which was in part why they had to let go of McDermott. because of the ineptitude in playoffs, and then the staffing decision was made by the coaching staff.
Yeah, I think what I was reading was that they're planning to release Keon Coleman.
Yeah, okay,
I
so they haven't released
apologize.
him yet. I don't know
Yeah,
if they will or won't.
I
But it's just sort
apologize.
of this
Yeah,
convoluted story. It's just sort of this convoluted story because there's audio from a interview from Bean, who said that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically said that the night before they drafted Keon Coleman, he went to bed that night knowing that when he woke up in the morning he was gonna draft Keon Coleman,
yeah.
which doesn't really sound like it was left in the coaching staff's hands to
No,
draft Keon Coleman. And so
no.
there's this narrative from the owner saying, "Hey, it wasn't Bean's the GM's fault. It was the coaching staff's. That's part why we have to let go of him." And then there's audio that clearly makes it sound like Bean himself is saying, "Nope, that was my decision from months back." This interview was, but at any rate, and so there's this weird thing of now we're promoting the guy who's making the draft decisions, which clearly they're at a deficit of talent in on the offensive side of the ball, and then firing the head coach. It's just sort of this weird situation, and just like you said, the players, as in majority of players, and some of them are putting their name to it, social media and through interviews, basically saying that this is crazy, that they didn't want
Yeah,
this to happen, that McDermott's an awesome guy, that he's a leader of men, that they really did not want him to go. And then, and it is reported that Josh Allen was not asked about this and was not consulted about this. So it is sort of an interesting set of circumstances. I think what it does is I don't know what it does for the Bills. I mean, but it puts another really good head coach out there. Um,
yeah, and
Come on,
yeah,
Raiders.
exactly. What I was
If
about to
we're gonna take a
say
defensive coach, how about we take McDermott? I'll take McDermott.
is yeah, no, I was looking at it, right, and I think we filled 5 of 10 positions for head
We got
coaching
four
jobs.
filled.
Four.
Yeah. So
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
yeah. So and just to recap really quick, and this is in no particular order. It's just the way I have it written down. The Titans, the Falcons, the Giants, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Browns, the Cardinals, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, and the Raiders all have had coaching firings this year.
yeah,
So far, we've got four filled. The Titans have hired Robert Saleh, who was the 49ers defensive coordinator last year and who had previously been the Jets head coach for the 4 years,
yeah,
and that was a debacle. He took a year off, came back, and was the 49ers defensive coordinator, and I got to say, phenomenal. 49ers set aside their playoff loss this last week against Seattle,
yeah,
was absolutely phenomenal.
yeah.
I don't know if there is a defensive coordinator of the year award, as much
Should
as I
go to
know
him.
about
No.
football, because I don't pay attention to that.
Yeah,
But if I had one to give myself, it would go to him. Yeah, phenomenal.
yeah.
The Falcons hired Stefanski previously last year and for the last 5 or 6 years, the two-time head coach of the year, no less, for the Cleveland
The
Browns. The
Browns.
Cleveland Browns decided that wasn't good enough for them. They were going to fire
Nope.
him.
Nope.
Dumbasses.
Yep.
I wanted Stefanski for the Raiders,
I did
but
too.
Falcons went ahead and snatched him up.
Which,
The
yeah,
Giant, yeah, which sucks. That was my
hmm
number one pick I wanted.
yeah.
The Giants quickly jumped on Harbaugh from the
Instantly.
Ravens, who was his head coach for the last 18 years.
Yep.
He didn't wait very long. He signed some massive 5-year, $100 million
Yeah.
contract, and he's clearly, when you looked at the press conference he did yesterday, he's not only the head coach, but he's probably running the entire organization at this point.
Yeah.
Which is whatever. That's fine.
Yep.
He's deserved it, I suppose. The Giants got a very good head coach, and I'm sure that everybody in New York is doing cartwheels as they
Yeah.
should.
They're very excited.
The Dolphins hired the Halfley.
Jeff
He was the Green
Halfley.
Bay Jeff Halfley, who was the Green Bay defensive coordinator. I don't know how long, but he's been pretty damn good at it.
So do you know how that played in? How that happened?
No, I don't know
So the
exactly.
Dolphins hired Packers vice president of player personnel as their
Oh yeah,
GM,
that's right. That is how
and
it
then
happened.
he
Yeah.
poached Jeff Halfley from the Packers.
Okay.
So that's
Okay. Yeah. So the
yeah,
Dolphins had previously fired the GM earlier in the year.
yeah.
They filled it with the Green Bay's
Green
previous
Bay's
GM.
vice, yeah, not his vice
So he
president.
he was vice president.
A guy who's up there, right? They
Yeah.
hired a guy high
Yeah.
up in the Packers office who had been working
Who's
for
now
the
the
Packers
GM
for
for the
20
Dolphins.
plus years. So
Okay, so
yeah,
he's now the GM for the Dolphins, and so he got Jeff Halfley, the defensive coordinator from Green Bay.
yeah,
So that for those of us keeping score at home leaves the Steelers, the Browns, the Cardinals, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Raiders all needing to fill their
6
head
teams.
coaching spots.
Yeah, so I mean,
And
just to get right into it real quick, let's just discuss the coaches that have already been hired, right? Real quick, real fast. I think we discussed New York enough, right? Because we talked about it last week, pretty in depth. But I think Saleh being hired by the Titans is bad news. I think that's going to be, of the coaches that have been hired, the worst head coach of the bunch.
what?
Saleh on the Titans. Of the 4 head coaches that have been hired, I think Saleh's team and that Titans team is going to be the worst of the bunch. We've seen Saleh with a team that is not great, right? And that team didn't get any better. And Saleh is coming into arguably a worse team, right? Like he's coming in to deal with a team that is arguably worse than what he dealt with before. You disagree?
I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree.
Really? Okay, so a lot of it was people were going, well, Saleh has a quarterback now, right? But who was Saleh's starting quarterback when he was with the Jets?
I don't know.
He had Sam Darnold for some of it, right?
Well, here's what I'll say. I'll say that the Jets are a black hole.
They are. The
from
Jets
ownership down.
The
There has been zero happening in for the Jets on any level. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, I'm glad the Jets are the Jets, because if I had to say, if there's a worse team in the NFL the last 15 years or 10 years, thank goodness the uniform I'm wearing has a team that's the Jets that's possibly, arguably, and in my opinion, certainly arguably worse than the Raiders on almost every aspect, is the Jets. They're a black hole. It doesn't matter who goes there. It's an absolute black hole. And I also think that Saleh is possibly a great defensive coach who got to go and work for Mike Shanahan or for Shanahan and the 49ers, and he's inheriting a better run program.
I'm taking everything back that I said about Saleh. Not when it comes to his quarterback. But yes, continue.
It wasn't Darnold. I know,
Darnold left. Darnold left that year. I thought he had him the first year.
No, and I mean,
my information's off. I'm having a rough day.
So I think Saleh's going to be fine. You want to move to Stefanski?
Yeah, I still think Saleh's in the worst position. Stefanski is getting a really good football team. That seemingly, since they lost that Super Bowl, can't figure out how to take a good roster that they have and make it happen. I think Stefanski's going to do great with the Falcons, though. I'm hoping that they stop being the team that you don't know if they're going to win or lose every week, even though you know they're talented with Stefanski. But, I mean, the Falcons are a very, very good team. And essentially what happened is the Falcons just took the offensive operations from the Browns and signed them to their team, right? Because they also have the Browns offensive coordinator from last year, too, now. Stefanski brought him with him. So,
and they're keeping their old defensive
guy. So, in terms of the 4 coaches that have been hired, I would say Atlanta's got the second best option behind Harbaugh. And then if we go to Miami, I think Miami's just a mess. Halfley is inheriting one of the messiest teams in the league, I think. You have Tua at QB. You've got to deal with just a mess of shit going on your offensive side of the ball. So that's how I feel about Halfley, at least. I think he has a lot to work on when it comes to that roster.
Yeah, on the surface level, I do too. I don't have them studied enough. I can't pretend that I know all 32 teams that great.
I mean, I know that offense is a mess.
Yeah, I know they're not in good shape.
Yeah,
I know they're not in good shape, and whether it was their previous head coach Mike McDaniel's inability to be a leader of men, or what the case was, Mike McDaniels is a phenomenal offensive mind. And so to have that offense be in the absolute shambles it is, and now I'm going to tell me that a defensive
guy's going to come
minded coach is going to come in and somehow magically fix that in a year is not going to happen. So that might be that's going to probably be a longer project. I think you're probably right. Falcons behind the Giants as far as the best situation of those so far.
Giants, Falcons.
Just because of the talent that's on the team and the ability of that head coach. Giants is probably better with Harbaugh. Again, I believe Harbaugh. Harbaugh could take any of those teams. I'd probably still feel like
Whatever team
that
Harbaugh
team is
took,
now in the best. That team
yeah.
is now is in the best position.
Yeah.
But that's just because of his ability.
Yeah.
Um, what we don't have really any news on is the Steelers and the Browns and the Cardinals, and I haven't heard anything about really Baltimore.
None of the teams I've
Ironically,
heard of anything from.
yeah, ironically, the Bills who just fired McDermott this week are I don't think it's gonna I don't know that it's gonna happen. I certainly don't have any reason to say it is or isn't, but it's interesting that they potentially could hire Daboll, who was the Giants head coach this year and got fired.
Yeah.
Prior to being the Giants head coach, Daboll was the offensive coordinator who fixed Josh Allen in the
Yeah.
Bills and basically turned Josh Allen into
Who he
a
is, right?
an average
Superman.
quarterback and kind of who Josh Allen has been the last few years before he left and took the Giants head coaching job.
Yeah.
But after getting fired and McDermott getting fired, I definitely think that's a possibility he could end up back there.
There
being
could
their
be
head
a
coach,
reunion of McDermott
but that's I don't
and
think
Daboll too.
I think that's smoke right now, no fire on that one. And then last but not least, the Raiders have made no moves. They've have a couple of second interviews set up with some no-name defensive coordinators from other teams. I guess. Who's the second one that we talked about? Oh man,
Before
I
we
can't remember off the
started,
top of my. Yeah, you and I were talking. There's one defensive coordinator for the Carolina, Ivero.
oh
I've never
yeah,
even heard of that guy. And they're going to second interview him, and then they have another second interview for the DC for who? For the Chargers.
yes,
DC of the DC for the Chargers. Can you pull
yeah,
up his name or just tell me his name real quick while I'm looking? But
yeah.
either way, I don't want either one of those coaches, as I sort
Um,
of previously hoped.
Jesse Minter.
Yeah, Jesse Minter.
There it is.
Minter is a bigger name, and I know he's done a pretty good job, and he's worked under Jim Harbaugh, not John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Chargers. So, and I know his name's been out there a while in the coaching kind of talks. But man, if it's not going to be somebody who's so phenomenal at being a leader of men and so phenomenal on their side of the ball, and I got to be honest, McDermott, who I'd really like to have, has actually not been that great on his side of the ball. He's a defensive coach the last couple of years with the Bills, but I just think he's such a great leader of men. And if you're going to leave a job and all of your players are going to speak so highly of you on your way out and really kind of not be
Yeah,
happy with the organization, upper management that they got rid of him, then I think I got to feel pretty good about that. And at this point, as a Raiders fan, I'm not really looking to win the Super Bowl next year.
no,
I'm sort of just trying to get the train back on the tracks and going in the right
yeah,
direction. It's what I thought was going to happen this year with Pete Carroll, and it was an absolute dumpster fire. And I can't afford to have another dumpster fire. And I don't think the Raiders are in a place where a young first-time coach, especially a defensive young first-time coach, is sort of what
yeah,
I'm really looking for. Um, it may be that it's not the next long-term head coach that the Raiders have, which is sort of silly because I think we've had 6 in the last 10 years. But maybe somebody like a McDermott, who's a leader of men, to kind of turn the organization and put him on the right path, get him to where Buffalo has been the last few years before we hand it off to somebody else. That's kind of where I stand. I'm sort of in that camp of kind of hoping that at the Daboll, the other name, and we didn't talk about head coaches we didn't talk about this guy last week, but he sat out this last year, and that's Mike McCarthy.
yeah.
Is another coach that I don't think that he's interested or the Raiders are interested, but as a Raiders fan, I wouldn't mind having Mike McCarthy come in. He's a
I
Super Bowl
would.
winning head coach with Green Bay.
Yeah,
And he was previously 2 years ago was with Dallas for the prior few years.
yeah,
Which, if you can survive in Dallas and do as well as he did, I mean, they were 12-5 like 3 years in a row under him.
yeah.
And
He
again,
coached really well.
I'm not looking for the Raiders to win the Super Bowl next year or 2 or 3 even. But if we get back to winning
Games.
football and be
Yeah.
in playoffs and have the direction going the right way, that'd make me really, really happy. My biggest fear is we're gonna hire somebody for some reason. I won't know until I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
ever know. Some no-name guy who's it's their first job, and that's just not the job that I would like to see happen. So
So what
I'm really hoping
stresses
that McDermott or McCarthy or somebody like that established, um, or some great offensive mind that comes out of the tree from Shanahan, the head coach for the 49ers, or McVay, the head
Yeah.
coach of the Rams. One of those minds, some bright, but that's not what I'm hearing. and
What
it's kind of scary for me.
what stresses me out about the Raiders is they're very clearly drafting Mendoza #1 this year, right? Unless
Yeah,
some
Heisman
freak
Trophy,
unless
national
some
championship
freak
winning Fernando Mendoza.
accident or some crazy change happens where the Raiders decide like who knows, maybe the Raiders draft McDermott and then Josh Allen demands a trade and just follows McDermott, right? That'd be awesome. But that probably won't happen. But either way, Mendoza's probably being drafted. And if you want to set your team up, I think you need to draft somebody to develop Mendoza in the NFL. And that is
You
an
mean hire
offensive mind.
somebody? You mean hire a head coach? You mean?
Sorry, yes, you need to hire somebody to develop Mendoza in the NFL. And that's not going to come from, what you're saying, a defensive coordinator hire. You can hire somebody
Not
like McDermott, because McDermott is really smart. And McDermott might, again, bring Dable with him. You know, that might be a reunion that happens. And if McDermott brings Dable with him to the Raiders or whatever team he goes to, I think the quarterback's going to be in a great position. But we don't know. I do think the Raiders cannot go with a defensive mind, and if they do, they're going to set themselves up for failure. But
they can't go with a new defensive coordinator.
yeah,
as a head coach.
that's
They
where
just can't.
that is. Yeah, it's just interesting. And then when it comes to the other teams, I mean, every team that hasn't hired a coach yet, it feels like none of them have had any news on their new head coach at all. There's been nothing. It feels like all the teams might be waiting for a chance to talk to and interview with guys that are currently still playing, right? Coaches that are currently still coaching in the playoffs. But
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I think you've already discussed all the names that are kind of interesting to me, right? You have McCarthy, you have Dable, McDermott, right? Like, there's still a lot of guys that are out there. We'll see where it goes. In terms of some other names, right? And this is me talking about my team now. Mike McDaniel has been hired or is in the process of being hired by
That's
the
the
Los
former
Angeles
Miami
Chargers.
Dolphins head
Yes.
coach.
Former Miami Dolphins head coach, the guy that I wanted the Lions to hire at OC.
Yeah.
He's going to the Chargers, and it sounds like, on reports, at least when it comes to the Lions side, that Dan Campbell really liked Mike McDaniel, but the Lions front office as a whole didn't like how he fit with the Lions, which intrigues me because, I mean, I went on a whole spiel about it last week where I think Mike McDaniel ran an offense that would fit really well with what the Lions have. And so it kind of shocks me that they didn't think McDaniel was a fit for their team. And then
Well,
go for
well,
it.
can I just say it really quick on this? Because I'm just thinking this as you're saying that. And because I was bought and sold on your pitch for Mike McDaniel as the offensive
Yeah.
coordinator for the Lions.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with you on sort of schematically and sort of how he operates. But if you just look at Mike McDaniel as a fit piece in there next to somebody like Dan Campbell and the culture piece, I don't think he fits. I think he's sort of
Yeah.
opposite,
So,
right?
but
And
here's
what we learned about Ben Johnson is Ben Johnson's kind of a no nonsense, kind of in your face, kind of a brash guy, head
yeah.
coach for the Bears, who was the offensive coordinator the last 3 or 4 years in
Yes.
Detroit. And he sort of fits. That's sort of the mold you fit in. And Mike McDaniel's more of a
Laid
he's
back.
more of a thinker, and he's sort
Yeah.
of a quieter guy, and not this. And so, all of the things that the Lions have been built on since Dan Campbell got there was sort of picking guys who fit the system more than even their talent, which
Yeah.
is sort of silly because they're epically talented almost in every
Yeah.
position too. But
Yeah.
those guys are specifically guys who are no nonsense,
They're tailored
no
to the team.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And I don't know that necessarily
Okay,
Mike
so-
McDaniel fits that. And that might be what actually
So
was what they're
here's
saying.
my counterpoint though, is Dan Campbell specifically really wanted Mike McDaniel for his team and in his locker room, right? That's what the reports are saying. And also, like, I agree. I don't think Mike McDaniel fits. He's definitely not a Dan Campbell, right? He doesn't have that energy. But I don't think that he would have not fit the culture so heavy. Now here's the other side of the coin, right? The discussion has kind of been like, well, Dan Campbell has run this offense, or at least had a hand in this offense since he's gotten here. And when he has run the offense, it's not been terrible, but he needs a guy who's a little bit more focused on it, that complements how he wants to run the offense to bring it to that next level. And I think that's where it was, right? Mike McDaniel would probably be coming in to take it over completely, right? And I think that's where the not fit comes. And with this new
Maybe so.
hire of Drew Petzing from the Arizona Cardinals, that's what people are saying you're getting. Now, the positives and negatives have been discussed left, right, and center all week, and I don't care to get into it because I think anyone who's speaking on it is kind of dumb. Most people are saying it's the worst thing ever, and then there's other people going, well, it's the best thing ever. And to get down to it, plain and simple, Petzing runs an offense that is run heavy. It's run first. It's built around jumbo packages with a lot of tight ends in it, and I think that fits exactly what the Lions want, right? The Lions should be a run first, ground and pound, punch you in the face offense, and that's what Petzing was running or trying to run. The other information around it is Petzing, although he had an offense that a lot of people think is abysmal and gross, had a year where they were really good, and they didn't look too bad with what he was working with. And my thoughts on it are plain and simple. I think the Lions hired a guy that reminds them of Ben Johnson. It's a guy who's worked closely with Ben Johnson, and he fits what they like to do, and he's going to be a complementary piece to what Dan Campbell wants. That's what I think is going to happen. Do I think it's going to work out? I have no fucking clue. I have no clue.
Well, that's like, if anybody
and-
knew
and
if it was going to work out, we
and
wouldn't be
nobody-
sitting here.
Nobody has a
talking on
clue,
the podcast.
right? And I think the mass amount of people shitting on it and saying it's the worst than ever and the Lions are done for are just stupid. And I think that's unfortunately what happens when you're a team who has had no success for its entire history, with the exception of a short stint in the 80s. The Lions haven't had fucking success ever, and now we have, and fans are speaking up and acting like they're the best, and they know what's up, and nobody knows what's up. So I don't know. I think the hire's interesting. I think they went for a guy that people weren't thinking about. But hey, we've done a lot of stupid things over the last couple of years that have worked out. We hired Dan Campbell. We drafted Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. We drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round, and people were confused. We've done things that people didn't like, and then they've worked out really well. So we'll see.
We will definitely see. So I think that wraps up what we have so far.
That's it. That's all I got.
We got a couple of really good games coming up this week to decide who's going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's either going to be the Broncos or the Patriots, and I got to be honest, as a Raiders fan, those are terrible
options that
choices
you
for me to want.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be the Rams, who we saw a couple years ago win it, and that would be, be in it. I'm sorry. Which would be really good for Matthew Stafford, their quarterback's legacy, if they could get not only into it but potentially win it. I still think that whoever comes out of the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl. So I'm still leaning towards potentially they would get there, and or the Seahawks, who I would really like to see get there and have Darnold play really well, so he can kind of clear his name. And I don't really have anything against the Seahawks, so that would be my favorite.
My ending closing statement really is, I think we've been saying it since the beginning of the year. Whoever comes out of the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl. And I still firmly believe that. I think the Rams and Seahawks outshine the Pats and the Broncos for a multitude of reasons that we've already discussed throughout the season. And so I really think it's just who's going to fight the monster 3 weeks from now, right? Is it going to be the Broncos or the Patriots? And yeah, that's it. Thanks once again for sticking around and watching this episode that clearly wasn't quick like we discussed. My bad. If you watched till the end, thank you. We appreciate you. I've been Michael Vitt, and he's been
Mike Vitt.
And we've been two Vitts talking shit. See you later, gang.
Yes, we
Thank
have.
you so much for watching.
Bye.